a lot of people are going to lose their jobs.
Artificial intelligence, AI.
AI will affect all jobs in the future.
Job market is flushed out because the world is changing really quickly right now. Like every month, the kind of decisions that I have to make as a business owner are changing so quickly because of the new AI tools or things that are coming out. Now, what does this mean for the job market? Only things which computers cannot do will be the jobs that will be remaining. The government should sort of step in and create some rich-friendly rules as well, because right now it's extremely rich, unfriendly rules that are coming out of here. So the rich people are like, okay, Dubai is not going to tax me. Why am I sitting over here? Dubai, even if they start taxing me 10%, for example, in the future, I have world-class infrastructure. The more rich people stay back in India, better for the country. But if more and more rich people leave the country, then we are screwed.
Which entrepreneur really looks promising to become a TCS or a Infosys or a Adani or a Reliance in the future?
Kamath brothers will definitely become.
Zerodha.
Yes. Apart from that, definitely Dipinder Goyal, definitely Adit Palicha from Zepto.
What is that one common thing that you've noticed in all successful people?
I think
And at this point in time, is real estate a depreciating asset?
kaun banega crorepati?
Yeah.
Me.
Me. We want to start talking about the spending habits of the youth today. Recently, there was a survey done by an insurance company which said that 88% of Indians anticipate financial uncertainty over the next 5 years. Many reasons, because maybe the youth is not investing in retirement funds, in their emergency funds, in insurances. With about 34.87% of participants admitted they do not engage in any financial planning.
Yeah.
These are shocking numbers. Where do you think we are going now as far as savings and investments are concerned?
Yeah, I think India traditionally has been a country which comes from a savings mindset. And that generally stems from what is the masses doing, right? Maybe 40, 50 years back in my parents' time, most of them were living a hand-to-mouth existence, right? So the only way to get out of that sort of a lifestyle is to save money. But the current generation have been brought up under a lot of privilege, right? The parents have already saved up some amount of money to put their kids to school and give them a good education. But that's it. That's the majority of the people. The story ends over there. Back in our parents' time, my grandparents could not afford to pay education for my parents, so they had to figure it out by saving money. Now they've saved up the money, and they're probably going to put half of that money to their kids' education. Now, the kids probably haven't seen that struggle of our parents going through and saving all of that money and are living a very frivolous lifestyle because they do not know the importance of saving money, because somewhere or the other they feel like my parents are going to take care of me. Now, the problem with that is twofold. India is not what it was 30 years back. We are a fast-growing economy. Having said that, inflation is extremely high. The returns on fixed income instruments like fixed deposits is not what they used to be. Most of my generation are shocked when they hear this, that fixed deposit used to give 14% returns back in our parents' times, and now it is 6.5%, 7%. So that is gone. And the last thing, which has been the pride of most of our previous generation, is real estate. That they bought it for cheap, and today it has grown to a significant value, and they're somewhat comfortable. But for my generation, when I mean my generation, all the way until the late 30s, I would say, that is no longer looking like a realistic scenario where I can invest in real estate and, have a sizable wealth for myself. So then that begs the question, how are you going to build wealth for yourself? How are you going to get out of this trap, as I would say, the rat race trap, where you're constantly a hamster running in a flywheel? And people don't understand that if you are not saving your money, you can never get out of that, that hamster flywheel. And the analogy that I like to look at is, if you go back to the olden days, when all of us were farmers, there were only two kinds of people. There were landlords, and then there are laborers. Now, landlords are the one who owns the piece of land. Now, they didn't really have to work because they owned that piece of land. And the laborers have to work day in and day out. They get a daily fee, daily money for their, expenses. And then that's it. They have to come the next day. Otherwise, they die. Literally die, because no money, no food. Now, imagine if there are some smart laborers who don't just blow off all the money drinking in the night like all the other friends are doing. Save up for maybe 5 years, 10 years, and then reach a point where they can eventually buy their piece of land and become the landlord themselves and hire other laborers, and then the laborers work for them, and then they are chilling. This kind of a mindset, very few people in India have, right? This determination to sort of reach that state of financial freedom, because it's not an easy thing. It's tough.
Yeah.
And it's not like, okay, 1 year you save and you're going to change your life. It's going to take decades.
Yeah.
Right. And that is something our parents understood really well. But the current generation, I think, because of n number of circumstances, are not, and I would say even because of so much more of consumerism happening in today's world, compared to 20 years back, there was no concept of, I don't know, 10-minute food delivery, or going for a Coldplay concert, or going for a Bali trip. All of these concepts did not exist as a desire. Today, those desires are so ingrained that people are generally going to be unhappy if they don't get those things. So because of increasing desires and high inflation in this country, and not being born in tough times, the current generation are playing it a little loose, and it could really impact them in the long term, because the inflation is going to keep getting higher and higher, and the taxes are so high. So it's not looking good if, the majority of the people don't really change the way they look at money and think about money.
Yeah. How do they do it then? Simple question. One of your thumbnails in your channel says, save 20% of your salary to become financially independent. Something on these lines.
Right.
Is that one way?
Yeah, so that was just a case study which showed, obviously higher the better. That was a case study which showed that even by saving 20% of your salary, you can become a crorepati really, really quickly, assuming you're making like 70, 80K per month. Obviously, if you're making just 20,000 rupees a month, 30,000 rupees a month, then it's not about saving money. It's about trying to increase your income.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not, a lot of people will blame the world, saying that, hey, it's very easy for people who are born rich to become richer. But I have a low income, right? I'm just making 20K per month, 30K per month. How can I, save money and become financially free? But I think you could have made that argument maybe 50 years back. But the world that we're living in today, the barrier to entry, because of the tools that are available to you, and the the kind of the low cost of these tools, maybe back in the day to maybe start, let's say, a real estate business, right? I need to have hundreds of crores, take loan from the bank and do all of that. But today to start, let's say, a simple service business, let's say I want to create content for other people, or I want to, manage another person's social media account, whatever it is, right? I don't need to have a lot of money to start those kind of businesses, right? With the minimal investment of, let's say, $20 a month, let's say ChatGPT subscription, I can do all of those things. And with the way AI is, developing in the current world, it's going to get easier and easier to do 10 people's work in one person's time, right? So I'm very excited about what's happening. But at the same time, the migration of people's focus is not coming over here, right? They're not really leveraging these sort of tools in a manner that they should be used. So although the, the barrier to entry is reducing, a lot of people are still not leveraging it. And because it's eventually going to be like, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and they really need to upskill themselves to sort of become solopreneurs themselves. And the faster they do it, the better it is for the country. Right? The countries, eventually, I think 20 years from now or 30 years from now, most economies of the world will be extremely solo entrepreneur driven. There is not going to be the concept of large organizations apart from the existing ones. But for new large organizations to come will be very, very difficult, because people will no longer, these huge organizations will no longer require that many people. They'll require lesser and lesser people. And these remaining people who have no jobs left, they have to figure things out by themselves. And it is going to be a difficult journey, but it is possible. So coming back to the first thing, if your income is very low, you need to learn how to increase that income. And today there are a lot of tools available. But if your income is, let's say, 60, 70K per month, even by saving like 20% of your income, you will be able to, reach that crore mark really, really quickly. When I was earning a lakh a month, which was 2 years into my career, I was saving like almost 70% of my income, right? Of course, I had COVID, to help me out because there was no desires anymore. You're locked in your house. There's nothing to spend money on. And I'm also staying at my parents' place. So rent is taken care of. So at that point of time, I was saving like 90-95%. But before I moved into my parents' house, I was saving like 70%. So higher the better. But if you are in that YOLO mindset that, no, I need to spend money. Otherwise, what's the point of making all this money? Even saving like 20-30% of your income can really, really, help you become financially independent.
Sure.
But most people start thinking about this probably once they have kids. When by then it's already too late.
Yeah. Can you break this 1 lakh down for me? When you said you were saving 70% of it, how were you able to? It's a big amount.
Yeah. So think about the expenses that every person has. Roti, kapda, makan. The biggest one is obviously going to be the rent.
Yeah.
As a 25-year-old bachelor, I was in Bangalore, staying with two of my best friends from college. We moved into a 3 BHK house. I took the cheapest room with no balcony, no window, no AC, no attached bathroom, nothing. And I was paying like 8,500 rupees. I had to negotiate with them. I'm like, one guy had an AC, the other guy had a balcony. I'm like, bro, I'm not paying this, make it lesser, make it 500 rupees lesser, really negotiated with them.
Yeah.
So that became 8,500 rupees. Second one is obviously, food, right? Food, when 3 of you all are there, when there is a maid coming and all of that, it's like, I don't know, like 4,000, 5,000 rupees a month. You can like really, take care of all your food expenses. Now, the biggest expense which comes is travel and going out on weekends. Now, travel, the problem is Bangalore, I had to live really far from the office because my office was in Indiranagar, but I was living like 1 hour away because the rent is cheaper.
Correct.
Now, either you take the bus or you take the car or you take the auto rickshaw. Auto rickshaw is not going to go that far.
Yeah.
Bus is not in your control, and plus I can't go to the office full sweaty, right? So I had to take the car.
Yeah.
Now car is Uber. If I take the Uber, it will be 300 rupees each way.
Yeah.
Too expensive. So then there was this concept of share taxi.
Yeah.
Like now there's a smooch taxi, but back then there was a share taxi in Bangalore, where 3-4 people can pool and go together. And this is a regular office going person who's anyway going in that direction.
Yeah.
And you can pay him like 20 rupees, 30 rupees to hitch a ride. Hitchhiking.
Yeah.
So I did that. So like for 50 rupees, my up and down was done. And these are like long distances.
Yeah.
So that way I saved money. And then going out in weekends, I used to that's where the real self-control comes in, right? Wherein you need to figure out other ways of having fun, right? And that's tough because both of your friends are earning good money.
Yeah.
And back then, in my first year, I was making just 30K per month. And even then, I wanted to save like at least 5,000-10,000 rupees. But when your friend who are computer science engineers, they're making 1 lakh rupees, 80,000 rupees a month, and one guy was loaded from his dad, and they're going out almost every weekend, and you obviously as a young 24, 23-year-old guy, you're like, they're going out, they're meeting girls, they're like having shots, they're dancing, you feel like you're missing out.
Yeah, sure.
And that's when you like really have to control yourself. And anything in life comes through self-control.
Yeah. But it's easy to say, right? How to resist the distraction. I'm sure you also wanted to go to the Coldplay concert. You also wanted to watch movies. You also wanted...
I did go to the Coldplay concert.
This one.
Yeah, this one.
Now, of course, you can go to any concert you want.
Yeah.
But back then, it must be tough. This is a very important question to ask. How do you really resist?
I think it's always thinking long term, right? You always, the problems with human beings happens when you think short term. Because if you think of short term gratification, you're going to do the wrong things, right? It could be like, overindulging in alcohol, in smoking, or cheating on your partner. See, all of these are, short-term gratifications that you're optimizing for.
Yeah.
The minute you think long-term, that I want to reach a life where one day I do not have to go to the office and earn my salary. Can I reach that point in life where I can wake up anytime I want and I can do whatever I want? And even if I don't work for 1 year, it makes zero difference in my life from a survival point of view.
Yeah.
That was a vision that I really wanted to achieve because I felt like, what is the point of having money otherwise, right? Like, I don't want to live a life where I'm being told what to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of person that I am. And I knew that I will be really unhappy if I have to live that life for the rest of my life. Retirement at the age of 60 did not really, float my boat. So that vision was very strong in my head. So every time you had to make a decision of removing money from your wallet, That vision should be in your head. And that's not just with learning how to save money. It's also with respect to being a business owner.
Yeah.
Right? The minute you think long term, these short term problems don't really matter to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, okay, that is my long term vision. Does this short term problem affect that long term vision? Yes or no? If it doesn't affect, don't worry about it. If it's going to affect, only then worry about it. And most problems don't affect your long term thing.
Yeah. But this is also a problem that I realize is with the job market at this point in time. This distraction, this lack of focus is what my observation is. There is firstly no jobs. If there are jobs, employers are becoming very, very choosy about who they are hiring and who they are not hiring.
Correct.
There are multiple layers to this. One is maybe the work culture is of the corporate work culture. Everybody is not able to get on board with. Second, we see so many reels today about how people keep complaining about Gen Z's work towards, attitude towards the work. Recently, in fact, I realized that people don't come prep for an interview. They don't know the company they are being interviewed for. It is so haywire. The third thing is also a lot of people suddenly want to become entrepreneurs. Everyone wants to start a startup.
Yeah.
Do you think these are major reasons why the job market is so flushed out at this point in time?
I think the job market is flushed out because the world is changing really quickly right now. We are probably at a point in time where the world is changing faster than any other point in history of time.
Yeah.
Like every month, the kind of decisions that I have to make as a business owner are changing so quickly because of the new AI tools or things that are coming out.
Yeah.
Now, what does this mean for the job market? Short term, I predict that there is going to be a lot of stress on the job market. No matter what you do. This is an unavoidable thing because businesses across the world, and it's already started happening. And if you see the pattern, that the companies who are actually building these AI tools are the ones laying off people first, if you've noticed.
Yeah.
And that is how the migration of technology happens. Facebook and Googles of the world build technology for all the businesses.
Yeah.
Every business that you can think of, Facebook and Google works with them.
Yes.
That is the birth of new technology. Now, these companies are laying off tens and thousands of people.
Yeah.
Because they have discovered and invented something, implemented in their operations, and they suddenly realize that, hey, the technology that we have created has now made us 2 times more efficient, 3 times more efficient.
Yeah.
I don't need so many people anymore. I'm going to fire people.
Yeah.
Now, there is an ethical way of looking at this. Now, ethical way would be like, hey, these are human beings. You can't treat them like robots. You can't fire them.
Yeah.
But the scientific way doesn't care about ethical ways, right? Because the scientific way says that if in a landscape where there is humongous competition between different businesses, we are not living in a fairy tale world where all businesses are gonna help each other.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
This is like a battlefield. Each business is like a kingdom with an army out there to kill, not literally kill, but to take money from each other. Because there's only finite amount of money in the world at any given point of time, and all businesses are trying to get that money.
Yeah.
Now think of one kingdom which has figured out that they can have missiles and guns, and they don't need 1 million soldiers anymore. They only need 1 lakh soldiers. Now, instead of 10 lakh soldiers, they only need 1 lakh soldiers. Now, 1 lakh soldiers can do the same job of 10 lakh soldiers of another company.
Yeah.
Now, that company has high cost to pay the salaries of these 10 lakh soldiers. This company has low cost, more profit. More profit, make better missiles, better guns.
Yeah.
So, you see that. So, the market forces doesn't allow for ethics to come here.
Yeah.
Because this is a dog-eat-dog world, right? Even if you want to say that, hey, the government is going to come and take care of the people, for how long?
Yeah.
Right? They talk about the universal basic income concept.
Yeah.
Rich countries will be able to do it. But developing economies cannot.
Yeah.
Because the governments are not having those kind of reserves, and they can't just print money just the way, however they want, to sort of start giving out freebies.
Yeah.
They try to do it, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You see what's happening in the world
Absolutely.
right now, right?
Yeah.
So, the point I'm trying to make is short term, there will be a lot of instability. And that's okay because that sort of forces the people to figure out new kinds of jobs. What you're doing right now, podcasting, did not exist 10 years back. This is a new job that you created.
Yeah.
Right? So like that, new jobs will come about. So there will be that instability period where the old jobs like auditing, data entry, all of that will start disappearing. And today, even content creation is sort of getting disrupted with AI.
Yes.
And even things like sales are also getting, customer support is also going to get disrupted.
Yeah.
So what will end up happening is people will be forced to figure out new things which are needed in this new world. There could be instability, but it is probably good for humanity because you're finally going to be able to do the things which are not boring in nature. Only things which computers cannot do will be the jobs that will be remaining. And jobs which computers can do are usually boring. Jobs which computers cannot do are usually going to be more creative and interesting in nature. So lives will be more fulfilling. But this current generation is going to get affected in the interim. Maybe 20, 30 years from now, you're going to live in a utopian euphoria kind of a world.
Yeah.
So that's what I think will happen.
But Sharan, what you're saying is more realistic or more doable or more exciting for a developed nation like a US. Because even if tomorrow they don't have job markets, like you rightly said, the government will take care of them. For a country like India, where the population is one of our biggest problems, then if we all upscale, it's impossible for all of us to upscale because of many reasons, including financial. Those who will be able to upscale will get the jobs. Those who won't, in our economy will struggle, right?
So I think, again, if you apply the first principles way of looking at things, what's going to happen? If there's not enough jobs left, meaning businesses have decided that a 10% job is now a 1% job, or a 10,000 employee company will now say that I only need 100 employees. So by logic, companies are going to make a lot more profits.
Yeah.
Because human resources are a cost to the company. You have to pay salaries.
Yeah.
So if a company has more profits, what's going to happen? The rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer.
Yes.
And India is one of those countries where the Gini coefficient, which is the indicator of how unequal the country is, one of the worst across the world.
Yes.
That's just going to get worse. So if I'm the government and I'm seeing that 0.1% of the people are becoming extremely rich and 99.9% of the people don't even have money to put food on the table, what am I going to do? If I am the one who is managing this country, I'm going to say extreme taxes on these companies. The more AI you use, the more taxes I'm going to impose on you. The more profits you're making, the more taxes I'm going to impose. If you're crossing 100 crore profit, more taxes. If you're crossing 1,000 crore profit, more taxes. So the taxation will go up tremendously. And then that's how the government will get more money. Now, what they do with that money is obviously this, something that I cannot talk about. But what they should do with that money is give out as many subsidies as possible. That is the only way out. Now, what will end up happening? Because this is an ideal scenario where the rich people are staying in India. But what is happening?
They're not.
The rich people are leaving India.
Yes.
Because they are predicting that. The government is just going to keep increasing the taxes. They tax my salary. They're going to tax my mutual fund investment, my stock market investments, my crypto investments. Wherever I make profit, the government is waiting. Now, is it unfair for rich people to leave India? That's again debatable because they're like, why should I be the one, doing the social service? Right? As a human being, we're all fundamentally very greedy. Very few people are like, oh, let's do equal distribution of wealth. Nobody thinks like that. Everybody wants to have wealth for themselves. So the rich people are like, okay, Dubai is not going to tax me, right? Why am I sitting over here? Dubai, even if they start taxing me 10%, for example, in the future, I have world-class infrastructure. Right? I know that this money is eventually going to benefit me. Good air, good healthcare, everything. So then patriotism is the only thing that will make you stay back. Right? So if you are pro-India and if you are like, okay, I need to protect my country because if I leave this country, then other countries become richer, then eventually India is going to be screwed. Only then you will stay back in India. Right? So that's the kind of instability that's going to happen with India. The more rich people stay back in India, better for the country. But if more and more rich people leave the country, then we are screwed. Because if there's no rich people in this country, there is no GDP, there is no tax collection. And how is the country going to survive? No jobs, everything breaks apart.
What do you foresee?
I think the government should sort of step in and create some rich-friendly rules as well. Because right now it's extremely rich, unfriendly rules that's coming out of here. But it's a tough job, right? Like, how do I put rules on the rich people, which takes money from them, but also keeps them happy? Can I give them some special privileges, right? Can I give them some special access, right? I don't know. It's a tough problem to solve. But in the interim, it's not looking good, right? That's the first principles way of looking at what's going to happen to a developing country like India.
You spend a lot of time in rooms where you have people like these who earn a lot of money, who spend a lot of money. What is their kind of thinking? What are they saying at this point in time about the current situation of the country?
I think the most people that I talk to about this, they're all in alignment. We all think that this is how it's going to happen. There's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
You are just, we just talk to each other thinking, hey, we know that this is going to happen. How are we going to, protect our businesses? How are we going to protect our people? How are we going to think about the next few steps? Because some businesses itself will get disrupted.
Yeah.
Right? Like forget losing jobs. Businesses itself will collapse.
Yeah.
So I'm a young entrepreneur, right? With a young business, right? Businesses which have been around for 10, 20 years, those guys are probably not caring that much,
Yeah.
right? Because they're pretty safe and they have good cash reserves and all of that. But a business which is just 3 years, 4 years old, the business models are changing and evolving very quickly, right? We have to be very agile. We need to sort of pivot to different things as the world is changing.
Yeah.
We are like, okay, this is what was working. Now these new things have come in this month. We need to change here quickly. If it can't take 2 years, take 2 months, right? If you take 2 years, you'll run out of money.
Yeah.
So we are sort of having these sort of conversations, like how do we prepare for this new world that we are, approaching into?
Yeah.
That's the kind of conversation. But we're all in alignment of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like whatever I just told you, most entrepreneurs will agree to this, saying that this is like, I don't see any other way out apart from this happening.
Yeah. The reason of asking this question is for everybody who's watching it should make the most of this time, because presently you can probably upscale yourself, make the most of whatever you have in the market. Because I agree with you, this will happen in the future, and it's a scary world that we are living in. From an entrepreneur perspective, how do you look at hiring today? I'll tell you my experience. I really struggle to hire these days. Most of the days I'm not happy with the people, how they come for an interview. They are underprepared. They don't have clarity. They don't have visions. Literally, candidates have said no for giving assignments. So that kind of an extra effort to showcase that I really want this job is not out there. Where do you think, firstly, again, is this a youth problem, or are we going wrong as far as the hiring is concerned?
People who have no other option, they have to take care of their family. They cannot take a risk of figuring it out, and find their passion. Those people will move heaven and earth for you.
Yeah.
You need to find those kind of people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, as crude as, as it sounds, you need to find people who really need the source of income to take care of their family. Right? They're not necessarily coming for their own personal growth. They're coming because my family needs this, I need to do this.
But we already spoke about this, that the youth today is so privileged.
Some of them, most of them are.
Most of them.
Right? So that's what we look at. We look at people who come from smaller towns. Right? We see that these, people from these towns are usually more humble.
Yeah.
Right? They're not spoiled. Right? They are not coming from, they never had pocket money in their life. Right? So I come from a small town myself. Right? I'm come from a city called Mangalore.
Yes.
Although my parents were in the, upper middle class segment, they didn't really spoil me. Right? So people from these kind of cities and towns, they are usually way more hardworking and they have something to prove. Right? That's why they are, the reason why they are, they're willing to grind it out and do the things which are not really exciting. You need those kind of people. Because there is no job which is 100% fun stuff. There is always going to be some boring stuff as well. Usually in the lower levels, more than 70-80% of your job is boring stuff.
Yeah.
Only those 10-20% is the exciting stuff. Right? And most youth don't like that. They're like, why should I do this boring stuff? Right? Like, I'm seeing all these podcasts, I'm watching this entrepreneurs, doing some cool stuff. I'm seeing, Zepto founder, 22 years old, he's become a billionaire.
Yeah.
Look at me, 25 years old, I'm doing this boring stuff on Excel. What's wrong? What's happening? Right? So that is the problem. Right? So the expectations have increased because of social media.
Yeah.
And the ability to take risk has also increased because my parents are, kind of stable. I don't have to support my family financially.
Yeah.
So that sort of has given the current youth to be more explorative and not take up the boring grunt kind of job.
Sure.
So I think it's both good and a bad thing. Now a company, you need to identify who are those kind of people who will do the, the grunt work as well, not just the exciting part. But eventually that's a cycle. That what I've noticed, that even if a person starts off, let's say at 50K per month, 30K, like in my company, let's say minimum is 50K per month. In the beginning, they're going to be really hardworking, very focused. Once they cross that 1 lakh per month, 1.5 lakh per month, that's when the flip happens.
Yeah.
then they start being like, okay, can I now do something of my own? Right? Now I have made enough. 1.5 lakhs a month is a good amount of money. 2 lakhs a month. Right? Now I can take care of my family and there is something left also.
Yeah.
Now let me save some money. Let me see if I can save money. If I save 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs if I save. Now I'm going to be like, okay, now I'm going to be very picky with my jobs. Now I'm not going to work and do whatever I want. Whatever my boss is asking me. Now I'm going to do what I want. Maybe I will go out on my own. And this has actually happened. Like there was an editor who worked for me. Hired him at the age of 19 for 35K per month. This is back when I was working out of my own bedroom. That was my first employee. He resigned about a couple of months back. I think his last drawn salary was about 1.2 lakh, 1.3 lakhs per month. He's 22 years old, right? And he quit because he's like, okay, now I'm making enough money. I've saved enough money. Now I want to go out on my own. So that kind of a cycle is bad for a company, but good for human beings in general. Because that is what's needed, right? That's what really empowers every person to do what they want. So I hear you that it's tough for you as a business owner, but it's good for humanity in general that this sort of a thing is possible now where people are very picky about their jobs because they're so good and they're financially in a position to be able to do that. Right? That is what we need, right? Because when you do that, that's when original thoughts come. That is when creativity is more. Like US because of this. More and more people could think like that. And because of that, there's such a big economy because that is where the innovation is happening. So in the short term, could be difficult in hiring, but it'll create more original thinkers in the country.
No, I agree. If somebody is empowered enough to start something of their own, why should anyone stop it? I'm still looking for an answer of what is your hiring criteria?
Okay. My hiring criteria, I actually don't do the hirings anymore myself. I just do the leadership position hiring. If I'm looking at, I will not say that this is just for a leader, but in general, how I connect with the person is I rarely ever look at their college anymore, right? I just straight away ask them, first question is just set the context, tell me about yourself, where I will understand how well they are at communicating, right? Because when that first question is so important, when people ask you, tell me about yourself, some people go on a big Mahabharata, which I don't want, right? I just want you to tell me who you are, right? Tell me who you are, and there are many ways of answering it. I have a certain kind of answer that I like, which is not more than 2 minutes. Tell me who you are in 2 minutes. That's it. Then I ask them very simple, in the last 1 year, just tell me what have you done which makes you so good at that one thing, which puts you in the top 1% of that one thing. That's it.
2 questions.
Second question is that. Then it goes into a rabbit hole based on what they say. Okay, what do you mean? What is that project? Can you go deeper into that? Tell me about this. That's it. So I just want to know, in the last 1 year, what have you done? In the last 1 year, what have you done that is so good that puts you in the top 1% of whatever you're doing? Because I only want such kind of people. People who are really, really sharpening their skill set in that one particular thing. Because I need specialists for different roles. If it's a generalist, it'll be a different question, but then it is problem solving. Like what are those problems that you've solved in the last 1 year, which you feel you have outdone yourself? Then they will explain. Then I'll go deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay, why did you do this way? Why not that way? Why not this way? So then that becomes like a 1 hour conversation. That's it. No strengths, weaknesses, 5-year plan, none of that shit. Get to actual thing, because that's how you can identify whether they're lying or not lying or being honest. Because when you ask them, what are you good at, which 99% of the people are not good at, and then they give me examples of why they are good at it to just justify it, that's when the reality comes out. You can't lie about these things.
I was having this argument with someone a while back on your first question. So I was told that the question of asking, tell me about yourself, is an obsolete question. That's what I was told. And I said, no, this is exactly where I will understand that the person even knows to frame a sentence and talk about himself.
Correct.
If he cannot talk about himself, he cannot talk about my brand. And that representation is
not just that. They have to communicate with each other.
Yes.
They're still human beings working with each other. And the larger the organization, the more complicated are communications. That's why companies like Slack and Asana, all of them exist. Because they've made communication simpler. But having said that, the way you draft your emails, the way you talk to somebody to talk about a requirement, all of those are places where things can break. Now, as the CEO, you can't monitor every single communication that's going on. So I need good communicators within the organization, because good communication is good flow of information. Good flow of information is speed, and speed is money. Speed is time, time is money.
Makes sense. But then also as a CEO, you have to take tough decisions. Like there was a time that you faced, lashback because you fired 15% of your workforce. And there was a time that you said that it may be wrong hirings.
Right.
How do you, as a business owner, judge that these people are my wrong hirings?
Right. So I think the problem with wrong hirings is twofold. One is that person was not what they said on their CV or in their resume. And that's a common problem. If you have 200 employees in your organization, you will have some bad apples who are not truthful to what they have said. Not just that, you realize that they're probably not a good culture fit, right? They are not in good terms with the rest of the organization. Like I said, the thing about communication, right? If they're not in good terms with majority of the people, then they'll not be able to communicate well with them. If you can't communicate well with them, you are not contributing to the organization. The last thing is the way that the world is changing. People who are hired for things are, for those things are not needed anymore. Like if you give me an example. Let's say, for example, creating content. Right, I'm a content creator.
Yeah.
Ever since OpenAI took over the world in the last 2 or 3 years, the machinery of creating content has been really, really disrupted. Right from scripting to shooting to editing. Today, I can do all of that in a click of a button without anybody. I can create an AI model of myself. I can put scripts from ChatGPT. I can create an agent framework to sort of scrape online information every day, see what is trending, create a script in my style, give it to the AI model, AI version of me speaking, do a lip sync of the audio trained on my data, and automatically publish on Instagram. Maybe it's come to my WhatsApp for approval and then automatically goes. This was a 10 people job, right? Now, whose fault is it? Is it my fault? Or is it the employee's fault? Or is it the general order of things? Right? For me, it's about the market forces changing. You cannot help it. I can't help it. You can't help it. The only way to not die is to evolve. Right? It was a sudden jerk to the world, but it is what it is, right? You can't just say that, hey, please stop AI from taking over jobs for some time. Let's figure things out here. Right? Let me sort of create these other jobs and then AI come take over. World doesn't work that way. Neither is world a fair place. Right? You can't say that, okay, I'm just going to be very fair. I am, going to be this just person who is not going to do any, a conflict or difficulty over here. That's not possible because the world is not created that way. The world is created in a very unfair manner that these sort of tough calls need to be taken. So for me, personally, it was a awakening call to understand how human beings think.
It was the first since 2022.
Right. So that was more than a lesson in entrepreneurship. It was a lesson in human psychology. Like how people really think about these kind of things, right? Because on one end, if you have a much larger organization, and I think, 2 days after my layoff happened, Freshworks, which is a global company, 1,000,000 times bigger than me, fired 10,000 employees, and nobody cared, right? And I still remember on that same day, Donald Trump was elected as president. But in India, that was the second trending news. This was the first trending news.
Really?
Yes, this was the first trending news. Everybody was talking about this, right? I think in shorts, put in their push notifications on top that finance influencer Sharan Hegde has laid off 15% of its workforce. Now, had it been, a mechanical engineer Sharan Hegde who moved from Mangalore to Mumbai, started his company with 100 people, laid off 15, do you think it would have made in the news?
No,
absolutely not, right? So, what taught me about that is that nazar is real, right? This is what nazar is. Like I used to always think this is what hocus pocus, this is not scientifically explainable. What the hell is nazar? This is what nazar is. Because the more attention you have on a shiny object, that shiny object will not look shiny anymore. Because there's so much of, energy coming onto that. And that eventually, if a lot of people are observing it, and that thing starts to make one small mistake, everybody is observing it, so that entire thing breaks apart. So that's what was a big awakening for me, that having a lot of fame is probably not the best thing always. That's why they say quiet wealth. you heard of all the richest people of India. They're not always on the media. And if you also realize, billionaires of this world actually own media channels. Why? See, media channels don't make a lot of money. Right? They have razor thin margins. But why is all of a sudden Jeff Bezos buying Washington Post? Why is all of a sudden Elon Musk buying Twitter, X? Why did they do it? Made no business sense. They could have invested that money somewhere else. Why are they doing it? Because if you control the narrative, you control your perception, and people don't know what's happening. Like, people don't realize that every single opinion about everybody comes from social media or traditional media. That's it. So, if you can control that, you control the narrative. So, the rich people realize it very well, and they want to be quiet. They're like, only when I need it, I will come. Most of the times, I'm going to be quiet. It's better to become rich quietly than to become rich with a lot of show fare. Right? So that's what I realized. Right? Until then, I was like, no, I want fame, I want views, I want followers. I'm just gonna, tell everybody what I'm doing, this and that. And all this while, my grandmother and mother have been like, what are you doing? Don't tell, nazar lag jayega, this, that, people, you don't understand how people think. People don't like you, showing off success, showing off wealth. Like, I was like, why are people like that? We should all be happy about each other's success. But I'm like, I'm the one who's successful. They're all looking at me and I'm expecting, they should be, praising me for all the success. World doesn't work that way. Greed creeps in, because comparison at the end of the day is a fundamental flaw in everybody. Right? Everybody likes to compare ourselves with somebody else who began with the same time as us. And if they are ahead of us, we are going to be pissed off. And if you are going to be pissed off, you will not wish good for them. Not just with your friends and colleagues, but also with your very own family members. Maybe just with your kid, you won't do it. But even with your own spouse, you might do it. Right? So that's what I learned about the world. That human beings are flawed. We don't like people successful. And if you see that they're going through a tough time, most of them will be secretly happy. Those were like things which are like, my God, this is so true. Right? That was like a rude awakening for me when I went through that time.
Do you consciously now underplay?
Yes. Now I'm like, I don't want to talk much. I'm like, okay, I didn't get views. Fine, it's fine. Business is going well, good. Right? Views are not there, it's fine. It's like that. I'm like, because at the end of the day, it's about the money, right? You need to have money to do anything in life, right? What will you do with the views, right? Views is just gonna give you that false sense of accomplishment, because you're like, you want this selfies and all of that, you want people to look at you wherever you go. But all that is, is superficial. Right? It's fun while it lasts, but then after that you realize it's more of a problem than what do you say? Than something nice to have.
So right? Choosing money over fame.
100%.
Fair.
Right? 100%. Like, why would a famous person who cannot make money, whereas a rich person who is not famous? Obviously, the second person is much better well off. Right? And also, when you're famous and you're not rich, it's very difficult to become rich, because your every move is, monitored, like a laser. Right? I mean, you've seen more controversies which come out after mine. I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but you know what I'm talking about, right? No, I don't want to talk about it. Those are my friends, and I didn't really like what happened. But I mean, that's that's because I went through that journey.
I get
if that did not happen to me, probably even I would have been like secretly happy. Oh yeah, should have happened only. But after going through the journey, I realized, how wrong we are. Like how human beings are flawed, and we can't help it. Right? It's I think Germans have a word for it. I forget the word. It's basically taking happiness in other people's sufferings. They actually have a word for it.
Wow.
Right? I was just watching a stand-up comedy show, and that person was talking about it. But that's true. We all do it. Human beings are fundamentally wired to feel happy when other people are suffering. Not all the time, but for people who are ahead of you. For people who are below you, you will be a dick if you think that, I let them suffer. No. But people are ahead of you. When they suffer, we can't help but feel happy.
You were talking about entrepreneurship a while back, and how so many people are becoming or targeting or focusing towards becoming business owners. So Piyush Goyal said something very interesting recently at a startup event. He said that how he was talking or comparing the startups in India and China. And he said that Indian startups are busy making food delivery apps, fancy ice creams and cookies, instant grocery delivery, betting and fantasy sport apps, and real and influencer economy. On the other hand, the startups in China are working on EV and battery tech, semiconductors and AI, robotics and automation, global logistics and trade, and deep tech and infrastructure. Now, these are very different and varied aspects that both the countries are working on. Do you think our startup culture is going in the right direction?
Fundamentally, it boils down to how much risk capital is there in a country. The more risk capital that is there, the more innovation can happen. Now, what is risk capital? Risk capital is the ability to put in money to things where the likelihood of making money is not in the next 2 years, 3 years or 5 years. It's probably in the next 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And they're so futuristic in nature that the world is not even ready for it.
Yeah.
Now, to make those kind of bets in a country like India, it's happening to some extent,
Yeah.
but not to that extent that's happening in the United States. Because I would say the United States and even China to some extent is a fairly mature economy with a very high GDP per capita ratio. So the spending power is very high. So you have a higher likelihood of being successful at very risky experiments.
Yeah.
Because an experiment is successful when you make money. In India, the addressable market is less than 10 crore people.
Yeah.
Even though we have 160 crore people, right? If you compare 10 crore, United States has 35 crores. So United States is actually 35 crore eligible people who can actually buy my stuff. In India, it's just 10 crore. The remaining 150 crore don't even have enough money to put 3 meals on a table.
Yeah.
That's the situation. So in a country like that, what is the right thing to do? I feel that if 90% of the country don't even have enough money to put food on the table, can I create startups which are enabling those 90% of the people to increase their income? Right? Which is what food delivery apps does. Food delivery apps provides employment to almost, 2-3 lakh people. Right? So these guys are those people who are in that bottom 90% who can't put 3 meals on the table. Now, if you're creating employment for those people, they will sort of start leaving their villages and hometowns and then come to cities, earn maybe 40,000-50,000 a month, and then send back money to their rural towns and then further develop it. So I think that sort of cycle should happen first. Then your deep tech, AI and all of that can happen in much more mainstream. It is happening right now, but it's not happening to the extent in which US and China are doing because we have bigger problems to solve right now, which is creating income for lower income people, increasing the income for lower income people. So what is the point of creating a ChatGPT based out of India if the Indians don't even pay those $20 a month subscription of ChatGPT? So if ChatGPT did start in India, it would not even be successful because Indians are not willing to pay $20 a month, 2,000 rupees a month. I'm not going to pay for ChatGPT Plus. So ChatGPT would have failed in India, even if they started. So the question is, how do I create more rich people in India so that I can play those risky bets in India eventually?
But are these businesses actually making money? Like I'm a Gujarati, so one of my main things that comes to my mind is a lot of these startups are burning money.
Right.
Is that the right way to run a business?
Right. So in the beginning...
and these are investor monies.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how it works, right? Or this is how I think it works. I've not raised a lot of money. I've just raised 10 crores.
Yeah.
But this is the way I think. So to build a very big business, you need to be ideally the first few entrants in that market. It's a new market that you have identified and you need to be the first ones to enter that market. For example, let us say I will tell you that, I will start manufacturing shirts and I'll be a billionaire. You'll be like, no, Sharan, there are so many other players out there who already build big factories and, workshops and all of that in Bhiwandi and all of that. You are too late. So, the only way for you to build a very large business really quickly is to be one of the first few entrants in that market. Now, let us say you identified something. Let us say, for example, you are Zomato founder and you started 2010, you figured out, okay, food delivery is a problem. I've identified this as a problem.
Yeah.
And you started working on it. Let's say with your own money. You're a Gujarati, you had, let's say, 5 crores. You put 2 crores into this and you're growing it. And 3 years later, you have 50 restaurants and it's built a sizable business. Now, let us say 3 years later, you've done those. 3 years, you've done this. Now I come. I'm Swiggy. Now I look at you, you've done 50 restaurants. Now I'm like, okay, this is working. You're profitable, by the way. And this is working. Using your own money. I will go to Mukesh Ambani and say, bro, please give me 1,000 crores. I'm going to get 1 lakh restaurants on this and, take this entire market share. Are you going to sit quiet?
No.
Right? You're also going to go to, I don't know, Adani and take another 1,000 crores and then get quickly. And in that process, you'll burn money. Because you are going after speed. You can be happy with those 50 restaurants and, make like 10 lakhs a month and be happy. But your ambitions are more. You'll be like, no, I started this. Why is the Sharan coming, and starting Swiggy? I don't like this. I need to conquer this market. I need to own 1 lakh restaurants. And if I sit quietly and do this slowly, other people will come and take the market share. And there's only limited number of restaurants in India. In only limited number of cities. We might have 800 plus cities, but the unit economics doesn't make sense if you go to these small towns. Because the small town will have, 1-2 restaurant. There, Swiggy delivery will do. No point. People will just go and get it over there, or the restaurant itself will have its own delivery. So there's a limited number of restaurants and a limited number of cities. So the faster you acquire them, the better. So that is why it's important to burn money in the beginning, to acquire the market share for yourself, and then figure out how to be profitable. But once you figure it out, once you acquire the market share, then a new entrant can't come. Today I can't come and start Sharan food delivery. Impossible. Because all the restaurants have already been conquered. Now, valuation of a company becomes more when the investors feel like there is not another company which can come and do this. That market has already been occupied. Similarly, nobody can start a Facebook today. Nobody can start an Instagram today. Already conquered. Already that attention has been conquered. And if a new competition comes, Facebook will buy it. Facebook bought WhatsApp, Facebook bought Instagram. So even if a new competition comes in food delivery, Zomato and Swiggy will just acquire them.
Correct.
And let's say you started something in a town, you started a new Swiggy and you scaled it to, let's say, 1,000 restaurants. And Swiggy and Zomato will be like, okay, this is a good business model. They'll come to you and they'll be like, take 100 crores, give me the business. You'll be like, okay, 100 crores, I get to go, you'll chill and party in Goa, right? So that's what's going to happen. So once I've conquered the market and I have investors giving me billions of dollars to conquer that market, then I know that this is going to be with me forever. Now, if I have something with me forever, I can keep adding new businesses on it. So if you look at Zomato, what are they doing now? They are figuring out other ways to capture a wallet share. Start with food delivery, then Blinkit. Now they're going into events, and now they're calling themselves eternal because they're like, I just don't want to be in food anymore. I want to do other things. They're getting into AI. They're getting into B2B SaaS. So they're getting into all of these things. So they're going to go into everything. So that's the mindset. So that's a different way of growing a business. But the logical way is, okay, I don't want to take that risk. I need to, just make profits for myself. That is one way of doing it. Second way is a conqueror mindset. I'm a king. I need to conquer the whole country. That's the different ways of thinking. So it's not that any person who is burning money will get investors' attention. It is only companies who can prove that today, even if I burn money, from that same person, I can make more money later.
Do you remember the first time you had 1 crore in your account? That I've achieved 1 CR. What is that feeling like?
I think it was very, I remember that day also. It was still during lockdown. And I was just tracking my portfolio. Within like 7 months, of starting creating content, I was able to make 1 crore.
Wow.
And also because the market was corrected a lot at that point of time. So I made some very good investments when the market had corrected after the stock market crash of COVID. So the growth was really quickly. I think the money doubled really quickly. So as soon as the 1 crore mark hit, first thing I did was show my mom. I showed the phone and I showed this. What is this? Can you see this number? And then that's what I did. I showed my parents. I'm a crorepati now. Kaun banega crorepati?
Me. The moment you said you made 1 CR in 7 months, my DOP dad turned and looked that side. It's a shocking amount, for a lot of people to earn. What is the most craziest amount you have heard that a content creator has made in a month?
In a month? I think it's not crazy, I would say. As in, like, I've heard this a long time back. But for the audience, maybe it might be surprising to hear this. But the biggest content creators are probably making about 2.5-3 crores a month.
A month?
Yeah.
And all of this is coming from brands?
There's multiple things. YouTube AdSense, brand deals. It could be some brand film that they're getting their rights of their content to run performance marketing on. But 2.5-3 crores a month is the uppermost number that I've heard.
Crazy.
Yeah.
With the ever-evolving technology and platforms, is content creation as a job profile here to stay?
I think now it has become not a full-time career. It needs to become a enabler for your career, right? It's not like content creation is dead, but it cannot be only content creation. At the same time, without content creation, you might probably die.
Sure.
Right? So, if you say that now, as a 18-year-old kid watching this video on YouTube, I'm going to become a full-time content creator, the likelihood of you becoming a crorepati is going to be very low because of too much competition, too much of AI. So, it's really tough.
Yeah.
But, and to become a crorepati, just being a content creator, you need to have at least like, let's say, 500k followers. Right? That's tough. 500k followers, like less than 0.1% of the content creators make.
Yeah.
Now, but can I become a crorepati with 10,000 followers? The answer is yes.
You can?
You can.
How?
Because now you are not just selling your media. Now a brand will not come to you for having 10,000 followers. They're not interested in your 10,000 views. But you can use access to those 10,000 people in a very specific niche. Maybe you want to teach a particular topic to those 10,000 people. Maybe you want to help maybe 100 of those 10,000 people with one particular function in their business and charge them 1 lakh rupees a month and hire 10 people to execute it.
Yeah.
1 lakh into 100 clients is 1 crore a month. And there are 10 people salary you have to pay who probably charge, 1 lakh rupees a month for those people. You're making 90 lakhs for yourself. I know a lot of people who do this. So having content creation is now going to be a non-negotiable enabler to whatever you are doing.
Sure. It's like taking your brands to more people.
Correct. Because think about it. Like if I'm a salaried person working for Infosys or TCS, the reason I'm working for them is because I can't get the clients myself because they don't trust me. So TCS has gotten the client and I am a low-level employee for them who's getting paid 25k per month. Now, if I know the clients myself, because they are following me on social media, even if they are just 10,000 people, I just have to connect with one of them on an Instagram DM, get on a WhatsApp group, talk to them, get on a Zoom call, pitch to them and convince them to give me a retainer of 1 lakh rupees per month for the next 6 months. That's it. I quit my job at Infosys and I do this.
Yeah.
Because that's just one client.
Yeah.
I can serve 3 clients because Infosys anyway making me work on 3 clients. I'll work on 3 clients here and make 3 lakhs a month.
Yeah.
And then I hire somebody else for 25k per month and then get more clients.
Yeah.
That's how you think.
Yeah. Infosys might make you work for longer hours in the week also.
Yeah.
But that's a separate topic. Since you mentioned TCS, this came to my mind. In today's time, who do you think are which entrepreneur really looks promising to become a TCS or a Infosys or a Adani or a Reliance in the future from the current crop?
At what level of these entrepreneurs?
Of becoming them. I mean, these multi-giants in the country. Today,
I think the Kamath brothers will definitely become.
Zerodha.
Yes, they will definitely become. It's not just Zerodha, right? They own like hundreds of companies.
Yes, of course.
Right? So I think they definitely will become. It's no doubt about that. Apart from that, definitely Dipinder Goyal. I'm sure he will be worth $100 billion very, very soon. And not just stay to food delivery. He'll get into every other industry there is because he's a, entrepreneur on God mode. Right? He's that good. Definitely Adit Palicha from Zepto. I'm sure he won't stop here with food delivery. I've had a conversation with him, very, very, coincidentally, we were in a flight together, sitting next to each other. And we spoke for like 1.5, 2 hours. He's an absolute genius. Right? And I realized that at that point of time, why he was able to raise so much money because he's really, really sharp. So I think he will definitely become an entrepreneur, of the likes of Adani and Mukesh Ambani, maybe in the next 10, 15 years. Yeah, I think these are the people who come at the top of my head.
Yeah. What did you learn on that 1.5 hour flight? What was your learning? Give me top 3 learnings that you came out from the flight.
Obsession. Absolute obsession. They can't think of anything else. That's it. It's like that Jensen Huang guy from NVIDIA, he said, right? That I'm always thinking about work. And even when I'm not at work, I'm thinking about work. And when I'm sleeping, I'm thinking about the next day, what to do at work. It's obsession.
Yeah.
What you put your time and energy to is what you will, reap benefits out of.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the right way to live life, but if you want to reach a certain level of Mukesh Ambani and Adani level, you need to be obsessed, extreme obsession. And second thing I would say is clarity of vision. These guys are visionaries. They're not just hardworking people. They're extreme visionaries who have an image of what India should be and are working towards that vision.
Sure.
Right? And they're really, really adaptive in terms of the changes. They're not like, oh, this was working, now it's not working, now I don't know what to do. They will figure shit out, or they'll get the right people to figure shit out. If they can't get those right people, they will get other rich people to give them money to get those right people to figure shit out. That's the mindset. It's a warrior mindset.
Yeah. Many times in the past, you've spoken about not buying the house but renting it out. So I want to ask you this question in a way that at this point in time, is real estate a depreciating asset?
No, see, that's a question which cannot be answered in one line, because real estate is of multiple forms.
Yeah.
A real estate which is in a city versus a real estate in the outskirts of the city versus it being a residential apartment versus it being a commercial apartment versus whether it's a completely built up building ready to move in, or is it a building which is started under construction. So different scenarios have different answers.
What I mean to ask is buying a house.
Buying a house in a ready-made form, absolutely no in today's day and age.
Is it really a depreciating asset? Like I saw on one of your podcasts or some other podcast where they said, I think you only said कि जो हमने 2 करोड़ का घर लिया है 2 BHK, वो 20 करोड़ तो नहीं हो जाएगा. So is this what do you think is what the maximum potential of the market is?
I think with respect to inflation, it is a depreciating asset, because in urban India, we are in Mumbai right now, urban India, for people like me and you, inflation is at least 10%. Right? There is no real estate in the heart of Mumbai which is growing at 10%. So as per inflation, it's depreciating.
I'll tell you my own thing. My father doesn't own a house, so we stay in a rented apartment at this point in time. As in he owns a house, but it's gone to redevelopment for years now. It's nothing is happening on that front. So I pay rent every month, and it pinches me.
But you will feel that pinch even when paying the EMIs.
But I'm sorting it out for my kids then. Do you think we should look at it from that mindset that my kid will not have to then worry about paying the rent? Let me take the fall for him or her.
Your kid might be able to buy the house at a very good price. Today the price is not good. So you buy things at the right price. So for you it's not at the right price. But maybe by the time your kids are old, real estate has corrected a lot. And then it looks very cheap considering how much money they're making.
You think it will go down, and how much will it go down?
Not go down, it will not grow as fast as rest of the things. So maybe what would happen is you're now saving money into other fast growing assets. And by the time your kids are 30, those fast growing assets have become a lot compared to the growth of real estate. Right? And by then salaries also have increased a lot. So now for them to buy this house, it look much more affordable. Versus for you, it is not affordable, but you're affecting your future wealth creation, which will also affect your kids.
Okay. Sure. So right now you're saying bilkul ghar mat kharido.
I mean, considering Mumbai, definitely not.
Outside Bombay, you think?
Outside Bombay, if you're living outside Bombay, then why not, right? Because those places are just developing. And the right time to buy the house is when it's under construction, just started. You need to obviously be sure about the builder because you will get it at a 20-30% discount.
Yeah.
Right? So that is the right time to buy the house. Now the problem is in a city like Mumbai is that things which are affordable are in the outskirts of Mumbai. Now, do you want to live there in the outskirts of Mumbai? The answer for most people would be no.
Yeah.
Like I want to stay close to my office or whatever. Right? Like for example, right now, my office is in Andheri. Now, if I had to buy a house, let's say my budget is 2.5-3 crores, which is the budget for probably most people watching.
Yeah.
Maybe on the higher end only, 2.5-3 crores. I will not get a 2.5-3 crore 3 BHK house.
No chance.
In Andheri or Juhu.
Yeah.
So I have rent only, and I am renting, and I can enjoy a very big house which I cannot afford to buy, but I can afford to rent. Otherwise, I'll have to go to, I don't know, like Thane or something and buy a house over there, and then I have to travel 1 hour every day. So it's a choice. I don't want to live there. I want to live here because I want to optimize my quality of life in terms of living closer and having access to good surroundings and nature and all of that, right? So that is what I would say, right? So it's a personal choice, but there's no right or wrong answer. But from a mathematical point of view, I would say don't buy a house right now.
What do you think about this whole business model of Airbnbs now? People are buying houses and putting it up on Airbnb. I was in Goa 3-4 months back and they were telling me again it's a seasonal business. During the year end there's a lot of people coming in. Otherwise it's a stagnant business. Do you think people should and I have friends around me who keep talking कि कैफे खरीद लेता हूँ, Airbnb खरीद लेता हूँ, फिर चिल करूँगा. पर ये सच है या ये थोड़ा बनी ये जवानी है दीवानी वाला सेटअप है कि ठीक है?
I think it's always in cycles. So the Goa as a story really blew up during the post-pandemic world. But now because of access to other countries similar to Goa, like now maybe going to a Thailand, which is also like a 3-hour trip, and also visa-free entry, is also become a very affordable option for the large number of Indians. So because now there is a competitor to Goa, with as with any other real estate property, if there is a competition, then the rental yields of the first property will come down because there is a new entrant. If you are the only option in that area, then you can charge a very high rent. Let's say Airbnb ka daily charges. Second thing is that Goa as a tourist destination has also lost its allure. People are now looking at it more like a retirement kind of a setup where I will live, but from a party kind of a mindset where I'll go to Goa, party, stay in an Airbnb, go with a group of 10 people and get wasted. That is sort of reduced, and there are new options which have come up. Having said that, I'm not an expert in this field about Airbnbs, but this is what I'm thinking from a macro point of view. So I would not do it because I'm seeing that the macro is changing, and as Indians are getting more and more wealthier, they will look at other cheap international destinations which are far better than Goa in terms of the quality and the visuals.
But I was not talking about Goa generally, but I mean, still is Airbnb anywhere? Say, example, Thailand, if there's somebody who's buying a house or wherever, Shimla, these places are still very popular. Do you think still buying and investing in Airbnbs and models like this is valuable for people?
If you are confident that the demand is going to be there of that area as a tourism spot, then it's a no-brainer. Now, how much you can predict the tourism demand of a particular location, that comes down to your expertise of that particular sector. Now, I'm not an expert. That's why I said that. I'm not an expert of predicting demand for tourism in a particular area. But as long as there is demand over there, that Airbnb will work very well because if it's all about the occupancy rate. If the occupancy is 60-70%, you're going to make a lot of money because most of them will make and there are actually companies who manage your houses. Right? There is a middleman who will actually manage your house. Right? So they'll say that I'll give you 7%, whatever extra I make is mine. 7% rental yield is great because in Mumbai you get 2.5-3%. So it's good. But again, it depends on the demand of the tourism in that area. If the tourism dies, then it's done.
That was the purpose of asking this question. That in rather than I putting in money in buying a house in a city like Bombay or say Bangalore or even Delhi or any of these metro cities, it is more correct business-wise decision or money-making-wise decision to invest in something like this to make comparatively more money. Is that right?
More than Airbnb, it's better to invest in a commercial property because there you get into rental agreements. Like come what may, you have to pay me my rent every month. Right? And commercial properties will give you 5-6% yield, maybe more if it's a much more lavish place. So there are these new companies that are coming out which are creating these layouts of townships which have like a shopping center, restaurants, F&B and all of that. And you as an investor, you can buy a small share of it and the rent is all shared. Restaurants are paying, shopping centers are paying, all of them are paying rent and you are getting a fraction of that rent as per how much of that land you own. So this is a better way of investing because there's more predictability of income. Versus having a single Airbnb, then there is so much of risk.
And maintenance.
So much of risk and maintenance, exactly. Because you'll have to take care of so many things. But the profit will be much higher if you have taken a good risk.
So destination matters then there. Okay. Robert Kiyosaki, Sharan, recently said that he warned that the financial system is undergoing major turbulence at this point and emphasized that precious metals and cryptocurrencies could play a critical role in navigating this crisis. Firstly, are we really looking at an economic downturn at this point in time? And how do normal, regular people safeguard themselves from it and prep for it?
The numbers are pointing in that direction where the economies are not stable across the world. Having said that, economies at the end of the day are businesses.
Yeah.
Businesses are not going anywhere. Right? Economies are built on companies like Reliance and ITC and Facebook and Google.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere. They're just going to get richer. Right? So businesses are not going anywhere. So economies will keep booming. But as a precautionary measure, it's good to be diversified across multiple assets so that your fluctuations in your portfolio are not as much. You might be the best finance researcher and say that, okay, the market will fall. But remember during COVID, everybody thought the market will crash and just bottom out because they're like, if people can't go out for 2 years, how will the economy survive?
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. We evolved. We evolved to live the digital way. Right? In fact, companies' profits increased because their expenses also dropped. No rental expenses and all were not there anymore. But still, efficiency was there somehow. So economy actually recovered, and it actually, after the 30% drop, it just boomed.
Yeah.
Right? Just now we're seeing the correction, the major correction.
Yeah.
But the last 3 years, it has been a la-la land kind of a journey. So very few people actually predicted that, saying, you know what, COVID came, but the economy is going to boom. I don't think you heard a single news channel say that.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying the market is going to crash.
Yeah.
So nobody can really predict. That's why it's best to be just diversified across everything. So I might be an expert in finance, but I'm not an expert in predicting anything. Nobody is.
Yeah.
So when you cannot predict, it's better to just put all your eggs in multiple baskets.
Yeah. And keep yourself prepared generally.
Yeah.
You've been in rooms with super successful people. You've interviewed many people like Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Nikhil Kamath, Robert Kiyosaki. What is that one common thing that you've noticed in all successful people?
I think when somebody becomes a billionaire, there is not much to learn from them. Right? Because they have reached a stage of life which is not relevant to you anymore. So the best people to learn how to become rich from are people who are just like 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. And like when you talk to a billionaire, their life ambitions and goals have become very different. They're thinking about wealth preservation. Right? Because when you have $5 billion, you're not thinking about making 30% returns.
Yeah.
You're thinking about how do I preserve this and maybe, I don't know, help kids in Africa not get malaria. You're thinking like that. Right? So that person cannot help you because you're not in the same stage of life.
Yeah.
That's not what you think about. Because just like the Maslow's law of hierarchy, right? They've already gone through all those levels of wealth. Now the only thing that's really making them excited is these sort of social service causes. So the best person to learn about how to become wealthy and rich is to learn from a young, new entrepreneur who has figured out something exciting in the current world, has latched onto it, and has really scaled up quickly. Because then you can replicate that in your own business.
Yeah.
So the right people to learn from are not billionaires, but to learn from the young, new entrepreneurs who have recently become a millionaire.
Sure. Do you think they're bored of money after a while?
I think so. I think so. Right? They still want to make more money, but it's not the main thing in their life anymore.
Yeah. Then they're chasing success.
No, they're chasing human impact. Like for Adani and Mukesh Ambani, the story that they're telling themselves when going to bed is, how do I make India the next superpower?
Yeah.
And I am the person who's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to work with, the government, Modi, and figure this out. And, India will be the new powerhouse. China will be second and maybe US will be third. Right? And I will be, ruling the current world. That's how they will think.
Yeah.
Someone like Nikhil Kamath would be like, how do I ensure that more people from small towns, by the way, Nikhil Kamath is also from, Udupi, which is close to Mangalore.
Yeah.
So he might be thinking, how do I enable more kids from small towns become a billionaire like me?
Yeah.
What is the problem? They're not getting funding. Nobody believes in them.
Yeah.
So can I create a fund for them? And whoever's business ideas are good, I will fund them for free. So that's what he's thinking. So everybody's mission is different.
Yeah.
But all of them are bound by that same thing, that how do I help humanity, starting from how do I help my countrymen. Now, once you reach a Elon Musk level, you are no longer thinking how do I help US. You are thinking how do I help the humanity as a whole. That's why I want to go to Mars, right? Because when the world is gone, I'm going to ensure that we have electric vehicles and there is a second home called Mars.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's going to be human impact after a certain point. Money is used to create more human impact.
Yeah. What is Sharan Hegde envisioning?
I think my mission is financial literacy and creating financial advice accessible and affordable for at least 10% of this country.
Yeah.
Because today it's not. Right? Can I create a company where the top 10% of this country financial advice becomes affordable and accessible, and and once that is possible, then I will focus on the rest 90% of the country to help them make more money so that they can be eligible for financial planning. Because if you don't have money, then you don't need financial planning.
Yeah.
So the first step is help people who have the money with their financial planning so that they don't make stupid decisions, and then help the remaining 90% become richer.
Yeah, and you've been able to do that in many, many ways since we've seen you do this in many years. Thank you, Sharan, for this contribution. I'm sure you've made finance entertaining. It's a boring subject, really.
Yeah.
But you've made it entertaining, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.